Recording in progress.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on this Lunch and Learn for December. Nice number already, and I'm sure that number will increase as we go on. But obviously we're pretty short on time, and we have a very distinguished and experienced speaker today, John Jones, who's been in the
Not sure
market
about
research
that.
and has been in the market research industry, I think, perhaps as long as me, which is reassuring to know that there are still people alive who qualify in that respect. So that's absolutely fantastic. Long may you continue, John. I'm not going to take any more of our time. You're very welcome. We're all grateful to you. If you'd like to briefly set the scene for us, and then if you're willing, and there is time at the end, it would be nice if we can have some questions. But over to you, John, to set the scene, and other people will join as we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes just to give a bit of context. As Michael has referred to, and many people have referred to for quite a long time, how long I've been in the research business. So I've clearly been in the research business a long time. I started in the 90s, qualitative research. The important thing, I guess, from two things. One, I have worked as a supplier for a lot of my time in principally qualitative research. That would either be in the last 6 or 7 years working by myself within the guise of Fabric Insight, but also working for lots of research agencies. But so I've done is I've worked client side quite a lot as well, and I've also worked in creative agencies. So from that point of view, I kind of have had experience of both doing it, buying it, and then also using it or being an influencer in the development of it. So I kind of get it, I hope. And with Motives, I've just been working with them on a very ad hoc basis for the last 18 months, just helping what I think is a really, really interesting product, really interesting proposition, just to kind of navigate our way through the research world. And it's really interesting when you come up, when there's something new and different, what you find out about actually what clients want and need, and what they need from a supplier. And it's really interesting. I think it's an amazing product. I think it's got lots of really interesting applications to it. And I think it's a really fantastic tool that can really help, particularly, I'm going to call ourselves us lot, the people who are kind of working smaller kind of little cells or by themselves, because the opportunity is really interesting from a point of view of flexing, of speed, of speed of response, and speed of dealing with projects. And there's interesting budgetary cost benefits. Sean's going to take you through the proposition, the platform. I will take about 15-20 minutes, and then we can field questions. So over to you, Sean.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone. So I'm Sean. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Motives. I'll run through a few slides just to explain kind of how the product works, and do a quick demo. But as John said, we'll leave a lot of time for questions. We'll be very curious to chat about whichever aspects of it you think is most interesting. Let me just share my screen to get us started. Here we go. So Motives is the name, and it's an AI qualitative researcher, and we can get more into kind of where we think it sits, but we see this as a real kind of not a replacement, but a supplement to human researchers, a kind of way to scale the qualitative research you're doing. And I'm sure you've seen a number of different tools doing something like this in the space. What is some of the things that are distinctive about our approach is we do entirely video interviews and long form interviews. So it's kind of 30 to 45 minute long interviews by default. Helps people really open up gives more chance. People are much more kind of focused in a way that we found they're focused much more in a way that they would be on a typical video call compared to the kind of lower engagement you might get with a survey. And then it can we can do the recruiting and let you run all those interviews like that. Um, Let me walk you through quickly the actual steps of the process here, and then I can show you what the platform actually looks like. Um, so the first part is that it's a kind of fully fledged AI assistant to help you kind of set up, run, and analyze the projects. And so you can kind of think of it as like I think John used the word flex to kind of help flex your capacity to cover big projects. It's like a teammate that does the stuff for you that you're still overseeing. It doesn't have all the kind of client context that you have, but it can help execute these things much faster to give you kind of more scale and more speed on learning from consumers. So you can talk to the AI to set up the research plan. It will then go out and run these in-depth interviews, like I said, up to 45 minutes long, all on video. We tend to force them to happen on desktop as well, so that people, again, more engaged. They're not, kind of on their phone, getting distracted by something else. They're actually fully zoned in, talking to this moderator. It's a dynamic moderator, so you give it a discussion guide, but then it kind of digs deep in interesting places. Again, not as good as an expert human would do, but it's responsive to what people say. It's considering the objectives, and so it does give a chance to kind of get a lot more depth than you traditionally would with the video survey. There's also 32 languages supported, and we can cover recruiting in even more countries than that. And so you can interview people in their local language, which is a chance to flex your ability to cover more markets much more quickly. It then does a set of analysis, which again I'll show you a live version of in the platform, but makes it really easy to pull out the kind of key findings about everything to help you produce a really great final report for the client, including some interactive functionalities. You can ask follow-up questions after the work and really probe in to find specific quotes or find, interesting examples. Um, and then, of course, you get the full library of all the interviews. So it creates this really kind of rich mine for you to go and pull out everything you need with this AI layer to help you kind of pull out all the key things as fast as possible. Let me jump over real quickly and I'll show you what that looks like in practice. So the way the process goes is that you start with the project. We have custom templates for different types of projects. So, the kind of AI has special guidance for if you want to do a creative concept test or consumer journey mapping, different options we offer. I'll just show you to start a custom project. How it works is you actually just chat with the AI, like it's a teammate. So you can say, "What would you like to research?" Maybe I want to know what UK homeowners think about buying solar panels. And it will have a conversation with you to kind of help walk you through what the details are. If you have an existing brief, you can drop it in here. If you know exactly what you are looking for, you can just tell it, but it can help kind of quickly set up a study by pulling out these things from you. So it kind of asks clarifying questions. So it won't make you sit through this whole demo, but you can see it kind of starts to build some of the details you want here. You can add assets if there's some sort of stimulus that you want to show the participants to test something. Um, After we then have this conversation with the AI, it will then draft a discussion guide for you. And again, I stress draft. You still have the final say over what goes into that, but it can help make it kind of faster for you to get this all set up. So you can see this is a one we've already set up about pulmonary disease towards domestic solar, and there's the discussion guide here. So all of these fields you can edit, you can rearrange, you can delete. So you have full control over what discussion guide is actually done. And you'll see there's kind of key questions and then probe guidance. And so the AI will kind of dynamically probe within this. You don't even have to be especially prescriptive. It's not like you need to say do exactly one probe, do exactly two probes, because it's hard. You don't know in advance exactly how much detail is worth going in for each question with each participant. So the AI will dynamically balance how much time is remaining, the overall objectives of the study, which we've defined, to know where to probe based on this kind of steering you can give it. The other thing you can see, you can set the number to participants, target duration, default is 30 minutes, and then you can kind of launch projects like that. Then the AI goes off, runs all these interviews, like I mentioned, video interviews. Um, the results then come back and we do different slicing to make it easy for you to kind of pull out the key insights that you're looking for. So um, here's our kind of standard report where we kind of give an overall high level findings from the studies. You can see this was a project we did about Tony's Chocolonely, the chocolate brand. You can see there's 25 participants. You can see all of their faces here. And there's a little bit of a background on the distribution of the sample, age range, gender, all UK nationals. And then here's the report. So we'll kind of summarize the background. And then the key theme for us is that we are pulling out these kind of key takeaways for you to make it easy for you to get a sense of what was found in the research very quickly. But we're always citing where everything came from. Because we have all the participants on video, it means we can actually give you the real video clips for anything we claim. So you don't need to worry that the AI is hallucinating anything because it's pulling actual video clips in to demonstrate everything. And there are transparently occasions where it's not perfect at finding these patterns. You know, it's sometimes someone says something and it's misinterpreted what they're saying, and so it puts people in the wrong bucket. And again, I think this is real kind of the role of human researchers here is like the AI is not going to be perfect at finding exactly what is most important to the business with all the business context and interpreting all this nuance. But we try to make it really easy to get the kind of main things, and then you can kind of interpret that on top, pick through what is actually important, and we try to make that really, really easy. So, for example, one of the main things was the kind of premium feel of Tony's, and so you can see that people think of it as a premium treat or an indulgence, and we can see what people actually said about it, including clicking
It
in.
tastes like it's more chocolatey in a way than Galaxy and Dairy Milk, which seem to be very much on the sort of candy scale of chocolate bars.
And you can then see, so here's, the most relevant quote that they has picked out that you get the video clip for. You can immediately download that video clip if you think it's an especially useful one, but it's in the context of the full quote. You can also jump to see the full transcript for any videos to dive in on any especially interesting thing. There's, again, a whole series of quotes here. You can see the quotes, watch any of the videos. And so the kind of main themes are pulled out to start. And then there's different ways you can dive into the data, again, in service of making it as easy as possible for you to get the kind of key things you need to bring back to the client. So one is that of course, this is qualitative research, but we're can kind of bucket some of the different answers into patterns to make it easy to dig in for specific things. So here's the kind of different categories, major things that were talked about throughout the discussion guide. And the AI has actually come up with its own buckets for these to group the answers together. So, for example, chocolate consumption. Are people consuming it daily, weekly, occasionally, only as a treat? And you can see examples of someone, who says, I consume chocolate pretty much every day. And so there's these different slices of the data that you can kind of quickly go through to see what's interesting comes out. First experience the Tony's Chocolonely, received it as a gift. I want to click in and see what people have to say about receiving Tony's as a gift. You can also use the different demographic segments to kind of cut up the answers in different ways. You can see, okay, is there any difference in the gender or the age for some of these patterns? And so it gives you this way to kind of very quickly see what the interesting patterns are and pull it out. And then finally, actually, sorry, one of the things I just want to point out on this page is that you can also export these reports. So you can do it as a slide deck or a Word doc. Again, these are not kind of going to be gold standard as good of reports as you will do yourself, but it can give you the kind of backbone of here's some of the main quotes, here's some of the key themes in a nice report structure to make it really easy to turn it into something deliverable for the client. Then the thing I mentioned earlier is this ask the researcher. And so this is a very powerful AI assistant to let you explore the results in any other way you want. So as an example here, I've just asked it, what did participants think about Tony's packaging? And it gives you an answer. Sentiment is very positive, bright, bold, distinctive, eye-catching. But then as I mentioned, crucially, it's pulling in the actual video clips so you can see where it comes from. So you can see, in this one, I really like the paper packaging that comes across as premium and environmentally conscious. And so any questions you need to explore, if you need more examples of a specific thing, you can say, find me some quotes about, this type of thing. If there's something that wasn't covered in the analysis that you think can be really relevant, you can kind of dig in and use this chat to go back and forth, and it will always bring in the actual sources. So you never need to worry that it's kind of hallucinating the results. And then finally, the interviews, as I mentioned, are all here. So you can actually go back and watch every single one if you want to watch, all 30 minutes of each interview, or just go through and read every single transcript. So you can kind of go as deep as you need for anything. It's all, of course, there, and you can export all these transcripts. You can export all these videos. All of this is made to be really easy to kind of consume and share onwards. That's the product demo. I have a couple final slides just to touch on the final key points, and then we can switch over to questions. The last couple things. So in terms of the process and the speed, and obviously an advantage of having an AI do this is you can get kind of unprecedented speed to get this kind of these in-depth interviews and the analysis. So our typically from setup to delivery is between like 1 to 3 days, 24 to 72 hours. It can vary a little bit if the recruiting is especially difficult. We're not specialist recruiters, but typically in the UK or US, we can do about 1% incidence rate. In most of Western Europe, we can do something more like 5 to 10%. And we work with a network of third-party panels to find kind of the best fit for the right target segment and country. But we're panel agnostic, so we can also work with you on whatever recruiting method you like to use. We have found that research participants really love speaking to the AI. For one thing, it's more convenient for them to not have to schedule, which is part of what enables the fast turnaround speed, is that they can do it as soon as they have 30 minutes free to do the interview. But we've also found in general that it feels like a very comfortable environment. We see the phrase "less intimidating" come up pretty often, and I think people feel like it's a really good way to open up. And then that final quote, also something like that comes up a lot. I felt like I could be even more honest since it felt so nudge judgmental. We have seen a number of kind of client projects be very surprised at just how much people open up with AI, especially about more sensitive topics. And so it can be a way to kind of get unique takes on things that someone might not mention, straight to a human. And then finally, just some of the types of clients we've been working with, and a lot of these have actually been through independent researchers or small agencies delivering projects in a lot of different interesting areas. And I am sure many of you have some skepticism about a number of aspects of the AI, which we're excited to talk about if you have questions. But a couple other kind of experienced researchers on the agency side who had their own skepticism, but have come away impressed. So would be excited for a chance to kind of prove out some of this in reality. And that's it. Let me wrap up there, and we are excited to discuss any of your questions.
Oh, Michael, you're on mute.
It's better that way, trust me. No, thank you, Sean, for your excellent presentation. And we've got a good time for questions. I noticed that Jeff Fitzgerald, I noticed you put a question on the chat. If you wouldn't mind sort of speaking that question for us as a starting point, then we can everybody can have the benefit of the answer. Are you still there, Jeff, to do that?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Yes. Do you mind then, if you would, Jeff? Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Sean. I'm really interested in sort of what you can do with the platform, but I sort of sit in a more B2B world. So my impression, and it's only an initial impression, and this is for all the tools out there, is that there's a lot more focus on video and a lot more on consumer. And I just wondered how it translates into the B2B world.
Yeah.
More senior respondents, because I typically do stuff in the IT field in large enterprise companies and stuff like that. So, and they certainly wouldn't want to be on video as well. So, any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, so we've kind of thought about this and looked into it a little bit. There's no technical reason you couldn't. As I mentioned, our interviews kind of works with any recruiting method. It's basically just a simple link, like a survey link you could send out to anybody. Um, in practice, we focus on consumer because they're much easier to find, and so we can offer this kind of full service package where you have a question, we can go out, find the people, interview them, come back. We've done some B2B, and actually through some of the panel, there's B2B recruiting panels. We've done some projects with lawyers or accountants, and one with doctors, I think, and those aren't super niche, senior decision makers. But we have also done a handful with someone where they were doing the recruiting. They had whatever it was, a set of customers or a set of relationships that they could do the recruiting. I think an advantage of those can be if the senior decision makers are so busy but they can spare 20 minutes, they can squeeze 20 minutes in, so an AI interviewer is better than a human interviewer they're scheduled with. That's an advantage. On the flip side, often the trouble you have to go to sometimes to get in front of a senior decision maker, you might as well have a human interview them just to make sure that they feel respected enough and that you can like make sure if anything really surprising comes up, you can go into that. And so we haven't found it to be in practice very compelling to use
Mm.
us for B2B, but we're open to support it for sure if
Yeah.
there's kind of a compelling
I,
need.
I'm always interested in sort of, so you may have a base question, but then you get a response back, but then you're looking for themes, the tool might be looking for themes and then trying to give a response back to move you on to the next level of insight. So so that's why I was wondering, particularly, whether it's legal or whether it's IT or whatever, some of it can be quite technical. So
Mm.
I just wondered how the AI tools cope with that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit related to what I was saying before. They're kind of like, I'd say in the scheme of things, very good interviewers, but not, expert human interviewers. There's some balance, as you'd imagine, between kind of giving them some freedom to dive into things, but not giving them so much freedom they just go off piste and are
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about, any random things. And so I think with senior decision makers, you maybe want to have more of that freedom, so you can pick at like totally surprising things that come up, especially if you have a small set of calls with conversations with them, and it's kind of especially valuable time you need to get out. Whereas with consumers, I think we've got a better balance with consumers where you've got a discussion guide you want to stick to. There's some things you might want to dive into, but you're unlikely to want some totally new direction that comes up in a specific interview.
yeah. Okay, good, good.
I think it feel. I mean, one of the key things that we really recognise is that it doesn't answer the whole of it, but it gives you so much in terms of speed, flexibility, range, etc., etc. Um, and obviously, with B2B, as Sean has said, one of the challenges of the B2B is getting the interview in the diary with the stakeholder. And this is just really fantastically simple. We can do it at 5:30 before they go off, um, leave for home, or they can do it when they get home or something like that. So there's that to it. Um, so yeah, I think it doesn't feel like it's more of a challenge from a point of view of our tech. I think it's probably your recruitment is the key part of it.
Yeah, what I was thinking was it could allow the ability to scale, but
Yes,
like level one, level two depth of analysis, and then possibly cherry pick from those that you've had, and then do an in-depth interview with them to go even deeper and get to some of the yeah that's how it feels like to me. Yeah. So
and that really applies to a consumer to consumer as well. It's
yeah,
absolutely
yeah, yeah.
that you can cherry pick, you can find the great people. I mean, one of the things that I was really excited by, having worked at ad agencies, and ad agencies really like it, is it's also amazing, and it's almost downplaying the rest of the platform, but it's a part of it that you have the opportunity to bring video into the office, and you've got people who don't access, or it's hard for them to access, the research experience and the field work, and you can bring these consumers to life. And that's really exciting. So if you can cherry pick, if you find a way of iterating and cherry picking, that can be really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll let others jump in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
indeed.
you very
Thank you.
much.
Absolutely. So if there are any other questions, please put your hand up either electronically or by frantically waving at me, and we'll welcome your contribution. I see no frantic
I
waving
guess
at the moment.
I guess we're really interested because we've been talking to clients a lot. We have not been speaking to large research agencies or even medium-sized research agencies, but we thought that ICG would be a really great place, just because you guys are doing it. Actually, the really interesting thing about this product is, in my experience, I've got nothing to do if I've got half or no projects going, and I'm completely whacked out if I've got 2.5 projects going at the same time. And so the sole trader and the small agency, this ability to flex, both in terms of sample size and in terms of um, countries, and in terms of speed, is really quite exciting. And so it feels like there's a sort of a really interesting sort of silent click with these the people that I'm speaking to. I may be wrong, who are working really hard, but they've got a kind of ceiling to how much they can do. So I'm just kind of interested to get your kind of point of view, if that's a relevant observation.
Excellent. We've got 4 minutes to go, so if anybody has a question, wave at me now. Yes, Mike Brown, we'll come to you, Mike, and then maybe there's time to then respond to John's question. But Mike, you please, if you will.
Andrew, did you have a question as well? We could do after Mike.
Yeah, it wasn't really a question. It was just a observation around. I've just done a project, 30 IDIs, and I think the client will need a follow-up project, and maybe the 30 IDIs were just UK, but I'm wondering whether the client wants to compare the UK with German respondents or French respondents, and I'm just thinking, having seen this and been impressed by what I see, whether that's a good way to go for the follow-up. So yeah, let's have a chat.
That'd be great.
Fantastic.
Sounds like a great kind of offline conversation, really.
Yeah.
Mike, your question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I assume, Sean, the way you've managed it, because you're pushing text to the participants, you're translating the video into text and then analyzing that. You're not actually analyzing the video content natively. So what I'm thinking about there is particularly in long situations like here, I'm waving my arms around, all that, you're not getting a sense of that emotion, sentiment from the video. You're just getting it from the text, right?
That's exactly right. So at the moment, we're using, as you say, the transcripts and doing all the analysis based on the transcripts. A kind of idea for the future is add in some of this kind of video analysis. I think some of it, I think there's a lot of hype in that space. I don't know if AI is as good as reading emotions as some people claim at the moment, so we're not rushing to add it. But yeah, and I think that's part of, as we mentioned, kind of the way we built the platform to make the videos very obvious, because I think having this, again, human layer to kind of help interpret this stuff does is still very necessary. Although one thing I'll add is I think we found people are much more earnest with an AI interviewer than they are with a human, and so you don't quite get people giving very sarcastic answers, that type of thing, because I think they just it lends itself to a certain type of sincerity when you're talking to this very sincere interviewer.
Great, thanks. I had one quick. You didn't mention pricing. Could you just give us an indication of what things might cost?
Yeah, of course. So we normally work directly with brands, and they're kind of on a subscription model with a certain number of credits. But what that comes out to is per completed interview is £200 per interview, covering all the recruiting costs and all the platform fees and everything. We have talked about it and want to give a discount to any ICG members of 20%. And so if you did projects with us, that'd be £160 per interview with a project is minimum 10, but then as many interviews as you want. And so for a 10-person project, that'd be £1,600. And as I said, no other fees. That's all included. It just scales with the number of completed interviews. And those are completed interviews. So if there's an AI glitch, or if a participant, really is a bad fit because our screening was wrong or something, like we have a human and AI analysis to catch those and replace them. So you only pay for successfully completed ones, at the right level of quality.
Thank you, Sean. We're really at time. Is anybody desperate to make a contribution that their day would be ruined if they don't get in with? Please wave at me if you would. I sense that desperation perhaps isn't there, but I also sense a high level of engagement and enjoyment, and I'm sure appreciation for John and for Sean for what you've done today, what you've shown us. I sense an impressed group, and people even managing to vertically applaud and put fingers up, so thumbs up. So that's all very good. So look,
Most appreciated.
Very good. I'll put my email in the chat. Always happy to talk with more with anyone about any of this. It's just Sean at Motives.ai. This is an American accent, but we're all based in London. So always happy to talk about anything. So yeah, please
And
please
Sean
do
was
reach out.
actually educated. Sean was actually educated in the UK as well, so he can be trusted.
That's right.
That's a controversial
Fantastic.
note on which to end, but let's go back to the thanks. Thanks to Sean and to John and to the rest of you for your time, and yeah, I'm sure dialogue will continue offline between people. Thank you all very much for coming today.
Thanks so much, Michael and
Thank you
Lucy
so
and Mike,
much.
for organizing.
Cheers.